In today's video, I'm going to be discussing a $2,000 fourth stimulus check right now in 2024, specifically focused on the low income, and yes, of course, including fixed income beneficiaries of Social Security, retirement, disability, SSDI, survivors, spousal, SSI, VA, and RRB. I also do want to discuss some surprising details of this $2,000 and how much. That's the focus of this video. Let's talk through the details. Now, first off, let me ask you a quick question, and I think we're all going to have the same exact answer, which is, would a one-off $2,000 stimulus check help you out right now? Yeah, obviously, right? If you got an extra $2,000 just randomly deposited into your account right now as a stimulus check, that would be wildly helpful for a lot of people. However, let's be fair at the same time here. Because of rapidly rising inflation and the last time that we received any type of assistance like this a few years ago, the $2,000 would go very, very fast, and realistically, it's not going to get us very much anymore considering how much prices have gone up. Yeah, $2,000 these days, it's just not going to do much. However, at the same time, we would all be incredibly grateful for it. I know I certainly would be, right? It would be very, very helpful for a lot of people. However, I do want to focus on 100 million low-income people, including fixed income beneficiaries as well. Now, how does this 100 million people have any significance? Well, let me share with you the details really quickly about this. So as of right now, in the United States, there's about 334 million people as the population. Obviously, that's changing every single day, but it's about 334 million people, give or take a little bit, as of right now. However, about 100 million people fall into the low income or fixed income category. Now, here's the thing as well. I want to point this out really fast. Just because somebody is a fixed income beneficiary does not necessarily mean that they are a low income individual. Believe it or not, right now, as somebody receiving Social Security, they could be getting a very high benefit and they could also be working. Now, this does not pertain to everybody, but there could be some people receiving Social Security and also working, earning a very high salary. So just because somebody is, receiving Social Security benefits does not necessarily mean that they are low income. So it does not pertain to a ton of people, but there's definitely some people out there that are still, taking out a major income and receiving Social Security at the same time. And yes, that is allowed depending on the situation. But again, we can talk about that in a separate video. That is a totally another topic in and of itself. And I have thousands of videos here on the channel talking about many of those different aspects. However, this 100 million people is what they are encompassing as far as low income people, okay? That's a lot of people. Now, why would so many people be low income right now? Well, I mean, look at the situation. It's pretty easy to be low income these days. I mean, seriously, look at the situation, look at the environment that we're living in right now. No wonder why so many people are struggling. In fact, I read reports and surveys literally every single week. You would not believe how many people are really struggling right now financially. It's unbelievable. I should share with you the reports that I come across. I talk about them sometimes in some videos, but not every single video and every single report that I read. I don't share it with you here on the channel, but it is nuts to see how many people right now are falling behind on bills, are delinquent on payments, people that are losing their vehicles, delinquencies, foreclosures, again, credit cards, the percentage of people carrying balances on credit cards and the balances on credit cards. Again, it's just nuts right now. But anyway, we can talk about all that in a separate video. Again, I don't want to digress too much here in this video, but my point is, it's nuts out there. It is absolutely nuts to see the finances right now. Like nobody has any money. It's like really sad. It's a really sad situation. There's some people that are doing okay, but a lot of people, a huge percent of the population, not doing well at all, okay? But anyway, here's what it comes down to. Maybe you've heard me talk about this in a separate video, and again, I've talked about this. It's a report that I've seen pop up a number of times, but basically, here's what they find. Again, I've talked about the details of this before in another video, so I'm not going to break down all the details here on this one, but basically what they find is that going forward with another major economic recession or contraction, that sending out stimulus checks to every single person across the entire country, or a huge percentage of the population, like 85%, like they did back in 2020 and 2021 with the last 3 stimulus checks we got, they went out to about 85% of the population. They continue to find that is not a good approach. Really? They're just figuring that out now? Yeah, they're figuring that out, that they do not need to do that, but rather sending out checks that are highly focused to the low-income people will give us the same stimulative effect on the economy as if they were sending out sending out checks to 85% of the population. So here's what I want to focus on. Remember the 100 million people that I mentioned a minute ago? Well, this is what they're talking about, okay? And again, I just want to point the details of this out, but here's what they find. If they were to send out $2,000 ongoing monthly checks for at least 2 months. Now, again, ongoing means more than one. So at least two, okay? It could be one. Well, no, sorry. It could not be one. It could be two or more, but at least two is what they find from this, okay? But if they were to send out even just a one-off $2,000 stimulus check, it would cost, guess how much? Well, if you run the math on it, it's not that much. $200 billion, okay? Now, for you and me, $200 billion is crazy money, okay? That's nuts, okay? I think any of us would be more than happy with $200 billion in our possession. I certainly would be, right? But my point is, for the grand picture here, like the big old picture over, over this whole thing here, $200 billion is really nothing considering how much they sent out a couple years ago with the stimulus checks. They sent out almost $1 trillion. It's basically a fourth or a fifth, depending on how you look at it. But it was about, depending on the reports you look at, it was about $851 billion is how much they sent out the last couple of years in stimulus checks. So let's just call it a fourth. So $200 billion in the form of a one-off $2,000 check to 100 million people would cost $200 billion versus $851 billion that they sent out a couple of years ago from those checks, right? All right, so you following with this? But here's the interesting part, okay? So they continue to find that sending out these checks to the lowest income people, 100 million people, a $2,000 one-off check would cost $200 billion, and it would have the same stimulative effect on the economy as sending out that $851 billion to 85% of the population, okay? You follow that? Now get this. It would have minimal inflationary impact. Why? It's $200 billion being plowed into the economy, right? But here's the thing. It'd be spread out all across the country. If they deposited $200 billion into the accounts of, say, all the residents of one state, that'd be a major problem. We'd have a ton of inflation locally in that one state. Obviously, it's not doing that. It's spread out evenly throughout the entire country, or mostly evenly, because people that are low income obviously are spread out all across the country. You kind of see that? Now here's the thing. Here's what they also find. Sending out two $2,000 stimulus checks to the same group of people would cost $400 billion, less than 50% of what it cost a few years ago when they sent out checks to 85% of the population. And guess what? It would only have about a 1 to 1.5% spike or increase on inflation. So it would increase inflation a little bit by about 1 to 1.5% according to the studies here. It would impact local economies and national economies, again the whole economy as a whole across the entire country, because it's $400 billion as a whole going out. And guess what it would do? It has a very high stimulative effect because they know this much. They know that money would be spent. Because here's the thing. The other studies that have been released have shown that sending out money to the lowest income people shows that the majority of that money is spent within 10 days and the majority of the money is spent within the next month. Okay, so here's what they find. Sending out that much money, $2,000 either one time or two times to only 100 million people. About, what is that, less than a third of the percent of the population in this country, they would have the same effect as sending out this $851 billion to 85% of the population minus the inflation. Seems like a pretty nice approach to me, right? Now again, does 85% of the population need a check? No. Does 85% of the population want a check? Probably. Who would deny a check, right? Some people do, but the majority of people probably would not deny it, right? So anyway, interesting reports here. And again, I want to bring this to your attention really quickly because this is all it would really cost. $200 billion for one, $400 billion for two. It would have minimal inflation and it would have the same stimulative effect. I don't know. Seems like a pretty perfect scenario to me to get exactly what they want out of this. Helps out the low-income people and does not jack up inflation like what they did a couple years ago, which, by the way, here's the big picture, though, too, as well. We continue to hear all the time, oh, the stimulus check caused all the inflation. I don't totally agree with that. Here's why. The stimulus checks were only $851 billion. They printed $6 trillion. That's a very small percentage of the total $6 trillion. So what happened to the other, what is the math on that? $5.15 trillion. What happened to that, right? Do you think that maybe caused some inflation? Yeah, 100%, right? So anyway, want to share this with you really quickly. I find it to be fascinating. I love numbers. I like reports and studies like this. I find it to be very fascinating because it just gives us a clear picture on what to do going forward into the future. So anyway, as always, subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet. Share the video with your friends on social media, the big share button down below as well. Otherwise, go back and check out any of the other thousands of videos here on the channel, including the thousands I have in the video library, otherwise the ones that I've hand selected for you down below in the description or at the top of the comment section. And until next time, enjoy your day, take care, have a good one, and I'll catch you again later.